The year was 1993. While models were screaming, "I won't get out of bed for less than $10,000 a day," a duke's granddaughter with a septum ring was questioning if she even belonged in fashion.
It's not what I look like at all. It's kind of the opposite end.
Stella Tennant wasn't supposed to be famous. She studied sculpture, avoided cameras, and thought fashion was shallow.
Like you said, you get used to seeing somebody's face and things become familiar, and then people's perception changes as well.
But the world couldn't look away. Designers fought to book her. Karl Lagerfeld was obsessed. Vogue put her on 6 covers. She had the aristocratic bone structure, the rebellious edge, the cool detachment that fashion craved, and she genuinely didn't care.
At the beginning, it's more difficult to recognize yourself, and after a while, you become accustomed to how you change.
When other models chased fame, Stella disappeared to her Scottish farm. When magazines begged for interviews, she refused. In an industry where everyone was desperate to be seen, Stella Tennant became legendary by trying to stay invisible. How does someone who hates the spotlight become one of the most influential faces in fashion history? And what happens when the industry's biggest rebel finally walks away on her own terms? This is the real story of the supermodel who never wanted to be famous and changed fashion forever by accident. Growing up on her family's farm in Scotland, modeling couldn't have been further from Stella's mind. Born in 1970 to Lady Emma Cavendish and Honourable Tobias Tennant, she was the granddaughter of the 11th Duke of Devonshire and Deborah Mitford, British aristocracy through and through. But instead of debutante balls and society events, Stella was drawn to art. She spent her childhood in the Scottish countryside, riding horses and exploring nature. No designer clothes, no glamour shots, just a creative kid with a love for sculpture. After high school, she followed that passion to Winchester School of Art, where she earned her degree in sculpture. Fashion wasn't even on her radar. The industry, to her, seemed shallow and commercial, everything her artistic sensibilities resisted. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1993, at age 22, fresh out of art school, Stella had just gotten a septum nose ring, a rebellious choice that perfectly captured her independent spirit. Around that time, a friend introduced her to Plum Sykes, a stylist at British Vogue. The magazine was planning a shoot called Anglo-Saxon Attitude and looking for English roses with an edge. Stella, with her aristocratic cheekbones, short-cropped hair, and that unexpected nose ring, caught their attention immediately. Photographer Stephen Meisel cast her in the shoot. "I had no real idea who Stephen Meisel was," Stella later admitted, showing just how far removed she'd been from the fashion world. She was an art school graduate who'd never even considered modeling. Her career moved quickly that year. She was photographed by Stephen Meisel for Versace's Fall-Winter 1993 couture campaign, and later appeared in the Anglo-Saxon Attitude editorial published in December 1993. These early collaborations with Meisel proved pivotal in launching her career. On the Versace shoot, she found herself working alongside Linda Evangelista, Shalom Harlow, and Kristen McMenemy, the biggest supermodels of the era. "I cannot tell you how intimidating it was," she later recalled. "I barely moved while Linda and Kristen danced around me." Those Versace images made her instantly recognizable, appearing on the covers of Italian Vogue. Overnight, Stella Tennant became fashion's newest obsession. But while most newcomers would have been thrilled, Stella felt deeply conflicted. The art student in her worried about being objectified. She later described fashion as a big, shallow world, and admitted she wasn't really sure if she liked the look of it. This tension defined Stella's entire career, a brilliant model who questioned the very industry that celebrated her. Despite her reservations, Stella's rise was meteoric. The mid-90s fashion scene was evolving, moving away from the bombshell supermodels of the early decade. Stella's cool, androgynous look perfectly captured the changing mood. At nearly 6 feet tall with sharp features, short dark hair, and piercing eyes, she embodied a new kind of beauty. Alongside Kate Moss, she helped usher in the era of heroine chic and androgynous style that defined the late 90s. Her timing couldn't have been more perfect. Fashion was hungry for something different, something that broke away from the glossy perfection of early 90s supermodels. Stella's unconventional look, her aristocratic background mixed with punk sensibilities, offered exactly what the industry craved. Designers fell over themselves to work with her. Gianni Versace made her a regular on his runways. Alexander McQueen cast her in his theatrical shows, most notably when she opened his Autumn-Winter 1997 It's a Jungle Out There collection. She walked for every major designer: Helmut Lang, John Galliano at Dior, Marc Jacobs, Calvin Klein. Her relationship with Karl Lagerfeld and Chanel was particularly significant. While not the exclusive face of the brand, she became one of Lagerfeld's favorite models and a regular presence in Chanel shows and campaigns throughout the late 90s. Lagerfeld appreciated her aristocratic profile and effortless elegance, qualities that resonated with Chanel's aesthetic. The connection wasn't just professional. Lagerfeld and Tennant developed a genuine creative bond. He appreciated her intelligence and authenticity, qualities rare in an industry that often prioritized conformity over character. For someone who never sought fame, Stella found herself at the absolute center of the fashion universe. Photographers clamored to shoot her: Mario Testino, Paolo Roversi, Bruce Weber, and of course, Steven Meisel, who remained a constant collaborator throughout her career. In December 1997, she earned her first British Vogue cover, the magazine that had discovered her just 4 years earlier. She would eventually grace 6 covers for them. In 2001, she was named Model of the Year at the VH1/Vogue Fashion Awards. During this whirlwind period, Stella maintained a strange duality. On one hand, she was an industry insider working with the biggest names in fashion. On the other, she remained an outsider who never fully embraced the lifestyle. She'd fly from high-fashion shoots in Paris or New York straight back to her farm in Scotland, trading couture for wellies without a second thought. What made Stella unique wasn't just her look, but her approach. On runways, she moved with a confidence that came from genuinely not caring what people thought. There was no desperation to please, no hunger for approval. This indifference paradoxically made her even more magnetic. She was completely herself and didn't try to be anybody else, recalled fashion editor Isabella Blow. She never played the game of being a model. Even her walk was different, purposeful, almost defiant. While other models swayed their hips and flipped their hair, Stella strode down runways with the nonchalance of someone who had somewhere more important to be. The New York Times once described her as having the hauteur of an aristocrat and the attitude of a punk, capturing perfectly the contradiction that made her so compelling. She could wear the most expensive couture or the grungiest streetwear with the same conviction, but as her star rose, Stella's discomfort with fame intensified. Unlike her contemporaries who embraced celebrity status, she shrank from it. Modeling is like being in the silent movies. It's not about your personal life, she once explained. She rarely gave interviews and guarded her privacy fiercely. This willful lack of self-promotion, as one profile put it, only made the industry more fascinated with her. The paradox of Stella Tennant. The more she withdrew, the more iconic she became. On runways, Stella was a chameleon. From punk to princess, streetwear to couture, she could transform into whatever the designer envisioned. Edward Enninful, now editor-in-chief of British Vogue, called her the ultimate chameleon who could be one moment a downtown Brit, next a stunning debutante. This versatility made her invaluable to designers. For McQueen's Autumn-Winter 1997, It's a Jungle Out There collection, she opened the show in one of his most dramatic looks. With Chanel, she embodied refined elegance. Working with Helmut Lang, she captured minimalist cool. Her friendship with the designers went beyond professional. She worked closely with Karl Lagerfeld at Chanel, becoming a regular in his runway shows throughout her career. The mutual respect between them was evident in their continued collaborations over many years. What Stella loved about the 90s fashion scene were the intimate connections formed with creative teams. Speaking of Helmut Lang's shows, she recalled how a small cast of models meant you'd build up a relationship with all these people. The human connections that made the work meaningful for her. Off the runway, Stella's personal style was famously low-key. Even at the height of her fame, when other models lived in designer clothes, she preferred worn-in sweaters, jeans, and practical boots. "My clothes haven't really changed," she laughed in a 2016 interview, noting she still wore items from the 90s, including oversized jeans, possibly borrowed from her husband. This authenticity made her the embodiment of effortless British cool, aristocratic roots with a punk spirit. Then, at the pinnacle of her success in 1998, Stella did something that shocked the fashion world. She stepped away from the catwalk. Her first pregnancy provided a natural transition point, but the decision went deeper than that. In 1999, she married French photographer David Lasnett in a quiet ceremony in Scotland. The couple settled in the Scottish borders, far from fashion capitals and paparazzi. There, they raised 4 children: Marcel, Cecily, Jasmine, and Iris. Unlike many models who tried to parlay their fame into acting careers or lifestyle brands, Stella sought privacy and normalcy. She valued family life over fashion parties, gardening over glamour shoots. The contrast was striking. At a time when supermodels were becoming brands and businesses, Stella planted vegetables and taught her children to ride horses. She turned down lucrative offers that would have meant more time in the spotlight. She wanted her children to grow up away from the cameras, living a life centered on family, not fame. Her retreat wasn't just physical, but philosophical. While the fashion industry increasingly embraced celebrity culture, with models building personal brands through reality TV shows and social media, Stella remained resolutely offline. No Twitter, no Instagram, no carefully curated public persona. A profile in the London Evening Standard noted her aversion to wanton self-exposure in the Instagram era, observing she couldn't think of anything worse than sharing her life online. This wasn't just personal preference, it was a principled stance against what she saw as the industry's growing superficiality. When she did return to modeling after a few years, it was entirely on her own terms, selecting only projects that interested her creatively. She had no interest in becoming a celebrity or building a personal brand. "I'm not really pursuing my modeling in the same way," she said in her 40s. "If it wants to pursue me, that's a different thing. I don't want to pretend to be something that I'm not." This attitude extended to aging in an industry obsessed with youth. Stella let her hair go gray naturally and embraced the changes in her appearance. While many models fought to maintain their 20-something look, she moved forward authentically. This refusal to chase youth wasn't just personal, it was political. In an industry that often discards women as they age, Stella's continued presence on high-fashion runways into her late 40s made a powerful statement about beauty beyond youth. Perhaps the most telling moment of Stella's relationship with fame came during the 2012 London Olympics closing ceremony. In a celebration of British fashion, she was chosen to represent her country alongside Naomi Campbell and Kate Moss, striding across Olympic Stadium in a custom Christopher Kane suit. It was a tremendous honor, recognition that nearly 20 years after her debut, she remained a centerpiece of British style. Yet even this spotlight didn't change her approach to celebrity. After the ceremony, she returned to her quiet life in Scotland, as grounded as ever. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, Stella made selective returns to high fashion. She walked the runway for Valentino's Spring-Summer 2020 Haute Couture show in her late 40s. In December 2018, exactly 25 years after her debut, she appeared on another British Vogue cover, shot once again by Stephen Meisel. A beautiful full-circle moment. In that anniversary issue, Stella reflected on fond memories from her career, including shooting with her grandmother, the Duchess of Devonshire, at Chatsworth House, and her continued relationship with the magazine over the decades. But increasingly, Stella directed her energy toward causes she believed in, particularly sustainability. Alarmed by fashion's environmental impact, she became an outspoken advocate for change in an industry known for waste and excess. In 2009, she partnered with Global Cool on their Turn Up the Style, Turn Down the Heat campaign, encouraging people to reduce energy consumption. A decade later, in 2019, she joined Oxfam for Secondhand September, urging people to buy no new clothing for a month and choose thrift or vintage instead. She even posed with her teenage daughter Iris in a photo shoot featuring stylish secondhand looks, proving that sustainable fashion could be chic. "It's going to take us a long time to change our habits, but I think that this is so obviously a step in the right direction," she said about the secondhand challenge. Practicing what she preached, Stella limited herself to buying only about 5 new items annually, instead reusing beloved pieces from her own wardrobe. "We all need to think a little bit harder about consumption," she urged. Friends noted that Stella would arrive at fashion events wearing garments from decades earlier, genuinely living the values she espoused. This commitment to sustainability wasn't surprising given her upbringing. Raised on a farm in Scotland, Stella had always maintained a connection to nature and understood the importance of conservation. The fashion industry's excess and waste troubled her deeply, and she wasn't afraid to speak out about it. Her advocacy was particularly powerful precisely because she came from within the industry. She wasn't an outsider criticizing fashion. She was a respected insider calling for change in a world she knew intimately. In 2016, she came full circle by returning to her creative roots. With friend Lady Isabella Cotter, she designed a collection for Holland & Holland, a classic British brand owned by Chanel. The line featured practical, elegant country clothing, perfectly aligned with her own understated style. Creating rather than just modeling fulfilled her artistic sensibilities in a way that pure modeling never could. It connected back to her sculpture background, allowing her to shape fashion rather than just display it. The Holland & Holland collection embodied everything Stella valued: quality over quantity, practicality over flashiness, timelessness over trends. These were clothes designed to last decades, not seasons, a direct challenge to fast fashion's disposable mentality. Stella's fashion philosophy was simple. "It is not about showing off. That really isn't my thing." Instead, she believed in investing in quality pieces that would last decades, not seasons. Her contributions to fashion were formally recognized in 2012 when she was inducted into the Scottish Fashion Awards Hall of Fame. In 2011, she won Model of the Year at the British Fashion Awards, recognition that even in her 40s, her influence remained undiminished. But awards and accolades were never what motivated Stella. She cared about creativity, authenticity, and using her position to promote positive change. Former Vogue editor Alexandra Schulman once described Stella as having made an enormous contribution to British style both on and off the pages of Vogue. Unlike many models who simply wore the clothes, Stella actually influenced how designers thought about beauty and style. Her impact extended beyond the runway. Young women who didn't fit conventional beauty standards saw in Stella permission to embrace their uniqueness. Her success proved that beauty could be angular, androgynous, unexpected. That personality and presence mattered more than perfection. Tragically, Stella Tennant's remarkable life ended too soon. On December 22, 2020, she passed away at her home in Scotland at the age of 50. Her family later revealed she had been struggling with mental health issues for some time. The fashion world was devastated. Stella McCartney mourned her as a wonderful woman and an inspiration to us all. Edward Enninful declared her utterly irreplaceable. Designers, photographers, models, and editors shared memories of a woman who had transformed fashion while never being consumed by it. Donatella Versace recalled her brother Gianni's admiration for Tennant, noting she had been his muse for many years and friend of the family. Marc Jacobs described her as the effortless embodiment of grace, elegance, and good taste. In death as in life, Stella was remembered not just for her beauty, but for her character. Friends spoke of her intelligence, humor, and kindness, qualities that had nothing to do with her fame. What emerged from the tributes was a portrait of someone rare in the fashion world, a person of genuine substance who maintained her integrity throughout her career. She never compromised her values for success, never lost sight of what truly mattered to her. Her legacy in fashion runs deep. She helped redefine beauty standards, proving that androgyny, individuality, and British eccentricity belonged on the global stage. She showed that one could be successful without sacrificing authenticity or privacy. In an era of Instagram models and personal branding, her refusal to market herself seems almost revolutionary. British Vogue summed up her influence perfectly. She is very much a British Vogue icon, the definition of British style, with a tomboyish look, eclectic taste, and an incredible ability to inject cool into everything she wore. In the pantheon of supermodels, Stella Tennant stands apart, the reluctant icon who transformed fashion by simply being herself. She never chased fame, yet her influence resonates more powerfully than many who did. In an industry built on image and illusion, Stella Tennant's legacy is one of genuine authenticity. The supermodel who never wanted to be famous ultimately became something far more significant, an enduring symbol of integrity in a world that rarely rewards it.